Hello, thank you for tuning in to my official YouTube channel, Reverend MeeLing. I am Reverend MeeLing. I'm going to go through the expanded version in regards to as quickly as I can to Finding the Silver Lining by me, Susan MeeLing. I've been known by a few names. Susan MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Reverend MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, so on and so forth. So, in reference to that page, as well as that, and in a briefer sort of way, that and that. In regards to, let me just have one more set of pages in that regard. So, and then that. So, one day, I was in my backyard of my house in San Antonio, and I had already had certain issues with the homeowners association. The first issue had to do with when I was mowing the lawn, and as I was coming up the side, because my house in San Antonio was on a corner in a cul-de-sac, so I was coming up the side, getting closer to the mailbox. This guy was walking to the mailbox, which was on my property, technically. And so I turned off the lawnmower. I went to go shake his hand. I didn't have the haircut or hair color or tattoos at that time. And I went to go shake his hand. He looks at my hand. He looks at me. He looks at my hand. He looks at me and he goes, "Why would I shake your hand?" I was just being friendly. I get you're going to the mailbox. However, just being friendly. I saw you, you saw me, being friendly. And he looked at me. Yeah, I don't associate with the help. My house, my property, I don't understand. And he looked at me and goes, "You can't own that house." But I do. So, hello, I'm Susan. You can't own that house. You're too young. But I do own the house. I'm just saying hello. I don't have time for this. Okay, fine. Later, a couple weeks, maybe a couple months go by. Mind you, when I was mowing the lawn, I had just delivered my daughter less than 3 weeks prior to that. That's all. Had to be sewn back together because of, the however many days of labor and all that sort of stuff. But okay, fine. Yeah, whatever. So, it is what it is. And so, I started gardening and started putting plants in the front yard, and I'm putting in flower bulbs. And that same guy walks over to my property and standing on my property in my front yard, looks at me and he goes, "Excuse you." I look up. Now, mind you, I have a hand cultivator in my hand. One side is 3-pronged. The other side is that flat axe sort of thing. And he came up behind me. And how may I help you? I don't know what more of a sign he needed at that point, that I was not going to be in a friendly mood with somebody walking directly behind me to yell at me on my property. So, let me have this. I'm swinging the, hand cultivator, breaking up the caliche and rock ground. Those who knows gardening in San Antonio, you know what I'm talking about. So that way I can put in my gladiola plant bulbs. Just digging into, "Excuse you." Yes. What? And I had recognized him because, I had watched how he would do certain things in regards to whenever I was gardening, he would rush to his house and then like the blinds would go down. Like after a certain point in time while I'm mowing the lawn, and it's like, okay, weird, really weird. Don't want to talk with me, but okay. So, comes over and, what do you want? And he goes, did you get permission to put that in? Stand up, still have the hand cultivator in my hand, and look at him and I go, what permission would I need? It's my house. It's my yard. What are you talking about? And the guy goes, what type of plants do you think you're going to put in to your, property? I'm going to put in gladiola bulbs right now. I got some other plants I'm putting in the back. Why do you want to know? And guy goes, did you get permission from the homeowners association? I'm the president of the homeowners association. That point, look at him and I'm just like, no, I don't need permission to put flowers into my front yard. And he goes, you better go and check your homeowners association covenant, blah, blah. Still holding the hand cultivator, mind you. See how much self-control I have had over the years. And so, just saying, holding the hand cultivator. No, I didn't read that I needed to, get permission for plants. And at that point, I did already read it, though. I said, as far as what I'm putting in the ground, they are flowers. In the covenant, it says that I have to get permission for bushes. And only if the bushes are going to be taller than 3 feet. However, I'm putting in flowers, which are not bushes. So you might want to get off of my property and not talk at me that way. Especially after how you spoke with me and refused to shake my hand. And the guy was just, well, yes, do tell me. What is it that you want to speak with me about on my property with that attitude and that tone of voice? And for some reason, maybe somebody could figure out why he decided to take a few steps backward and stand in the sidewalk area instead of on my property. Maybe there's somebody who could figure that out. Nonetheless, he didn't like the fact that I knew that. And so, you better I don't have to get permission. At all. I'm not, no. This is not a game. You're right. You are absolutely accurate. This is not a game. You, on the other hand, seem to think you are playing a game. I am letting you know I am not doing that, and I'm just putting in flowers. Well, you better, what? And at that point, he realized that I had the hand cultivator in my hand. And he looks at me and he goes, are you threatening me? No, you came onto my property to yell at me about what I am allowed to put into my ground. And with what I plan on doing, it will only raise the house values, by the way. However, since you don't care and all that, well, how could what you do raise the value of the house? Well, because I know how to do that. And if I choose to destroy a house value, I will choose to destroy a house value. So I'm doing stuff to raise the house value. And in turn, the entire neighborhood's value. And that, Guy threw a fit, whatever. Later, he realized that I was accurate. And then I was throwing a barbecue. I'd invited a bunch of the neighbors that I did speak with at the time. Mowing the lawn, getting stuff taken care of, ready for the graduation party. And he comes over while I'm mowing. And he goes, hey, it's not like I can't pick up the lawnmower, but okay, what? You want to yell at me some more? What? And the guy goes, so I heard you're having a barbecue. Now, mind you, I'm going like this with the handle of the lawnmower, essentially pushing the front end of the lawnmower up. And it's like, I can pick this up. I've actually picked it up to take it out of my shed. I literally pick it, in my thoughts, I pick it up from the base and then carry it out of the shed to put on the grass to mow. By that time, I had also picked up either a 6 or an 8 tier rototiller, put it into the back of my van, picked it up to take it out of the back of my van to use myself in the backyard. So it's one of those, yeah, this is really light compared to that rototiller, but go ahead and talk with me with that attitude. Go ahead. I recommend you change your tone of voice. However, go ahead. You're going to invite me to your barbecue. No, I'm not. If you don't invite me to your barbecue, I'm going to throw it. I'm going to be mad at you. I don't care. I don't care at all. So if you could get out of my way, I need to restart my lawnmower so that way I can mow my lawn. Thanks. Got to get ready for that barbecue. That just because you are the president of the homeowners association doesn't mean you're actually invited to. Thanks. And I don't care. I've been nice. And I don't mean in the Anna way. I've been nice. And you keep pushing, pun intended, since you have to hit the primer button. You've been pushing my buttons the wrong way. And so, you know, bye-bye. The neighbors in the cul-de-sac had been told about that. They were like, he is such an asshole. And I'm like, yeah, well, I put him in his place. And they were just like, damn, you got balls of steel. And I'm like, you don't know. However, then there was a point, and I had already had the cacti removed from the corner for the safety of the kids in the neighborhood, as well as the different people who had animals and stuff like that because of the prior owner having that there. And then also the cactus that was in the backyard, I had that removed as well. And so there was a day that I came back to my house where my gladiola bulbs were still in the ground. However, there was a section like this, so like basically 2.5, 3 feet wide by 2 feet deep of the gladiola flowers that I had planted. I had changed the colors of, and made bi and tri and quad and penta, whatever. I changed the colors nonetheless. And they were gone from one section. And I swore up a storm. I had a fountain that was taken out of my front yard. I learned that I am not putting anything pretty in my front yard. I'll make my backyard an oasis, and the front yard, I will make it presentable, but you will not ever get that again. Like, it infuriated me so badly. Still, I'm infuriated about my gladiola flowers, because took a lot to get them to grow, not forgetting how much they cost and all that sort of stuff, not forgetting the color changes that I did. And yeah, I was so infuriated, less than a week later, the rest of them to the ground. And I was gonna do all sorts of stuff. Done. I don't think so. Just because of you. Piss me off. Done. Anyway, So then later, about a year, maybe year and a half after that, that guy wound up moving out, and is what it is in that regard. And so taking care of stuff, and I was about to do some stuff in the backyard, and my now dead ex-husband, his dogs Nick and Princess, started barking, specifically Nick. And I turn around, I look at Nick, and I'm like, shut up. Stop. And he didn't bark like he normally barked. He didn't do the normal yip, yip, yip. He did it, oh, and it's like, whoa, where did you grow a pair? Whoa, 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 whoa. And like, so I keep going back and forth between the shed and yelling at Nick, shed, yelling at Nick. And I'm going to bop you on your nose. And right when I go over to where the archway was that I had moved to the section that separated the floral garden from the vegetable garden, there was my fence that got completely obliterated by the Datsun truck that drove into my yard, completely destroyed all of my fruit trees, and drove the Datsun truck into my shed. So you're going to get a T-bone steak tonight? He did. He did. Just because of that. It's like, I owe you. You get a T-bone steak. Thank you. And I gotta go deal with this. And I had just put my son and my daughter up in their rooms for their naps. So, you know, I heard the guy put the engine in reverse, and it's like, so yeah, no. And, you know, the ground started coming up a little bit. And I was like, I don't think so. And so go knock on the passenger door, and I'm like, get out of your car now. And the guy was just, oh, you're here. Yeah, get the fuck out of the car now. And so dealt with that, dealt with calling 911 and all this sort of stuff, and his attitude and all this sort of stuff. Tried calling my now dead ex-husband. He was busy in the lab, you know, cheating on me is what it is. And so it's what it was. He is what it is. So police show up, they make a report, that sort of stuff. And the next day I'm looking at my backyard, and I'm just like, that's... And so there's this guy across the street, and he starts walking closer, and I'm like, oh, do not do it. Do not do it. Do not, not right now. Not right now. Well, he decided to, you know, show up. He's like, oh, gee, it looks like a car came through here. Gee, what will give you that idea? The tire tracks that are in the ground of my yard. Maybe the fact that my fence is, you know, whatever. You think? You need to get rid of that attitude. Mind you, he is standing on my property inside of my yard and my shed with all of my tools for gardening right there, like not even 10, 15 feet away. And it's just, stay calm. Stay calm. This is the state of Texas. And I'm looking at my yard, and I'm like, well, there's a spot there that I could do something. And so then he gets an attitude some more, and I don't care. This is mine. So I buck up, and I'm just like, I don't think so. You're not going to do this. And so then he says, where are your parents? Huh? Where are your parents? You can't, I'm going to tell your parents that you're speaking to me. You are on my property, in my yard, talking at me this way. And yeah, they're ironically in San Antonio, but what are they going to do? Ground me in my own house that I pay for? Ironically, my biological father pulled up. Saw what was going on, gets out of the car. Mind you, I did not have the haircut style or hair color or tattoos at that point. Still had the dark brown hair that was in pigtails, which did not help. And admittedly, I can laugh now. Anyway, Mike gets out of his car, which was actually the car that I had purchased. But because of the laws as far as ownership, that 93 Honda Civic. Anyway, pulls up, he looks at the guy, and he goes, "What's going on here?" And the guy looks at him and he goes, "Is this yours?" And he goes, "Yeah, you know, yeah, that's, yeah, that is." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And the guy goes, "Your daughter has an attitude, and da 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 da, and she's talking with me with an attitude, and blah, 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 blah. And she needs to have more respect," while he is still standing on my property in the tire track in my backyard in the state of Texas. And so I look over at Mike and I'm like, yeah, go ahead, tell him. Go ahead. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead. And so the guy is rah, 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 special, whatever. Mike looks at him and says, "So what am I supposed to do? Ground her to her own house that she pays for?" I look at the guy. At the time I had pigtails, so I'm just like, and so pissed that guy off. Wound up dealing with the stuff as far as Fred Loya insurance was concerned. That took a while to get taken care of. Once that was taken care of, I was finally able to get the shed taken care of and the fence and all that sort of stuff after they didn't want to, you know, pay for what their individual did wrong. And so I just annoyed them, which I preferred not to have to do. I preferred that. I preferred that they just did it correctly the first time and it not be an issue. However, their employee came in the backyard to knock on my door from the backyard instead of the front door, and there was just a whole bunch of issues with that. Nonetheless, finally get the check so that way I can get that taken care of, so on and so forth. And I submit the paperwork to the homeowners association, and this paperwork was sent in October. In the following year, in January, I am taking care of my son and my daughter. My now dead ex-husband answers the phone. He goes outside to the backyard to speak. And I notice that he is being cut off. Well, now I gotta know what's going on because I have never seen or heard a situation like that where my now dead ex-husband then got stopped in a discussion and he actually listened. So I go outside, I light up a cigarette, I lean back, and I'm just like, what is this? What is going on? And so all that essentially happened was, and ooh, light another cigarette, go on and on and on. He gets off the phone, looks at me, and I say, "Everything okay? What was that about? Anything important?" He looks at me and says, "You should light up another cigarette." Mind you, he was studying work to do breast cancer research and had hated the fact that I smoked. What's this about? Light up another cigarette. What's going on? And so he told me that the homeowners association president called him or called the house, but he spoke with him and, you know, this, that, and the other, all these different things. And if meaning the president wasn't satisfied or whatever, then going to put a lien on my house. And I look at him and I go, "God, for what?" Because the shed is 6 inches too tall. Give me the phone. And my now dead ex-husband, he said, "No, it can be cut down." Not after what I went through. No, not after what I went through. Give me that phone right now. So I called the number that my now dead ex-husband had been given. No answer. Oh, look, caller ID. Hello? And the guy, the president, well, I'm the president of the whole, yeah, well, I did this. Well, you know, there was Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, according to the covenant of the Homeowners Association, you had 30 days to contact me. You didn't contact me in 30 days. Well, you know, Christmas and Thanksgiving, would you have, first and foremost, would you have given that same courtesy to me? I know the answer is no. Second, there is more than 30 business days between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And even still, this is January. No, not going to do it. Well, if you don't do it, I'll put a lien on your house. Oh, I don't think so. No, you are not going to put a lien on my house. And I highly recommend that you do not go and, is what it is. And, well, I'm a police officer in San Antonio. Yes, that's cool, you know, thank you for your service to the city. However, you cannot use being a police officer when being a president of the Homeowners Association. That is illegal. That is against this. That is against that, so on and so forth. And the guy was like, yeah, well, I'm a police officer. I'm a police officer. Well, if you want to go into whose dick is bigger than whose, I mean, you know, you serve the city, which I do appreciate. However, I signed I signed on the dotted line for serving the country of the United States of America. So if you want to go into a pissing contest and whose dick is bigger than whose, I'm letting you know that I signed up to serve the entire country of the United States of America. And no offense towards you or any other police officer, but you are not going to do that in reference to me. And again, it is illegal for you to utilize the fact that you are a police officer in reference to being the president of the Homeowners Association. I don't know who you think you're speaking with, but I'm going to let you know that that is absolutely unacceptable, and I will not tolerate it. And he got really mad. And he threw a temper tantrum on the phone. I'm going to put a lien on your house. No, you are not, and I highly recommend you don't, because you don't want me to hope, is what I was thinking. Not in that way. Well, your shed is bigger than everybody else's shed in the neighborhood. That is not my problem. Your shed is and he told me he had to drive past my house. And he saw my shed every single day. Yeah, well, you know what? I may not be in that house anymore, but you still see my shed anytime you go in that neighborhood now, don't you? Yes, you do. Yeah. You can't undo that. Anyway, so... So, in that regard, I contact the corporation. They didn't respond to my email. Okay, well, I'll just show up. Because this is unacceptable behavior. Absolutely unacceptable. I got all dressed up in a suit and did my hair curling stuff. I didn't have the hair that I have or tattoos. Nonetheless, showed up. Had the covenant with me. Walk in the front office. Oh, well, you know, can you wait for the lawyers and me? I will wait. I prefer not to have to wait that long because I have to do what I have to do to keep myself under control and focus my energy. So it is better to, like, not have me wait. But okay. In other references, I'm done waiting. That being said, you know, let's get this taken care of. Let's get this handled. So I get put into this really big office conference area, and it's like, okay, so you got the really, really big table with the really, really big chairs, and I'm really, really tiny. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not scared, but go ahead. So I start laying out the covenant on the table and stuff like that. Lawyer comes in, and he's all, well, hello, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, hi, I'm Susan. Nice to meet you. I got this. I explained this. I showed, here's my documentation here. Here's my documentation here. You can see that I sent in the paperwork on this date. Your president of your homeowners association did A, B, C, D, E, F, G incorrectly. By the way, it is illegal for him to utilize the fact that he is a police officer on the San Antonio police force in reference to what, you know, the president of the homeowners association thing, and and that is unacceptable. And here's in this section, whatever number, letter, blah, 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 and in this section, letter, number, whatever, and this section, letter, number, whatever. And so by every single standard, according to your covenant of your homeowners association, I have followed every rule. Well, you know, you have the biggest shed in the neighborhood, and like other people, you know, their sheds aren't as big as yours. And your point is what? It is in compliance with the covenant. It matches the house, unlike the shed that was there before. And I go over a few other things, and the guy's like, well, you know, you might make other people feel inadequate. And instead, they can't just get bigger sheds. They can't just do other stuff, like to have more instead of whatever temper tantrum this is, blah, blah, blah. And well, you know, we can take you to court. Oh, okay. Let me tell you how that's going to go, because I've already researched your company. And he goes, oh, okay. So there was a lawsuit in reference to a retired Marine Corps veteran, and your particular company had put a lien on that retired Marine guy's property because he put a flagpole with the United States of America's flag hanging from it. And because not you particularly, but your company put a lien on his house, and he wound up having to move out, and he continued to fight, and so on and so forth, and all this sort of stuff. And then the events of 9/11 happened, and a month later, you guys were in court about that, and the judge was so infuriated that you wouldn't settle and fix things and repair things. He did, what did he do to your company? What did he do? What did he do? The guy goes, well, that particular case, your company wound up having to pay the retail market value to the person who purchased that guy's house, pay for his stuff to be moved out, pay the restitution to fix the Marine guy's credit, while also paying the full market value to his house, paying off the lien, paying off this, paying off that, and go down the list. And then his house was removed from the homeowners association, now wasn't it? On top of which you had to pay him an additional several hundred, whatever, thousand or million or whatever it was, to restore everything, correct? And he goes, yes. I'm going to continue this. I'm going to paint a picture for you to very much comprehend. Because while you are looking at me and just, oh, I'm young, right? And he goes, yeah, you're young. How do you even own a house? Well, let me tell you. So I'm medically retired from the United States of America's Armed Forces Army branch. Same thing in that regard. And he's studying to do breast cancer research, whereas I had a head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. I was in a coma for a while. I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. I deal with a whole bunch of medical issues, so on and so forth. So if you really want to go toe-to-toe with me in court, we could go toe-to-toe in court. Although I highly recommend you just make a variance and, you know, no problem, forget this ever happened. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer your company's name to go through that all over again? And it doesn't matter how many times you change that name, by the way. If you don't fix it, it's going to still follow you. Or you could just fix it and we could just, it'd be over. Which do you prefer? And the guy looked around and he goes, are you not, like, scared? I'm a lawyer. I don't care. You started it, I'm finishing it. And so, well, you know, I'm going to speak with the different guys and the blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I'm just letting you know that this is what I will do. I will absolutely obliterate you. Or it could just be fixed. And so, yeah, okay, gathered up my paperwork. 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail saying they were making a variance for the 6 inches on my shed. And I was just like, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I did it. I went and told my neighbors. They were like, well, I actually really like that shed. And so then, you know, then there were discussions and they had certain issues. And I was like, well, you know, just tell them that, you know, you live next to me, you know, in the same cul-de-sac and you know the story. And they won't be able to discriminate against you. And then there was another aspect in regards to my neighbor that lived between that particular neighbor's house and mine. And he went to go get the mail. He was walking across my lawn. And I'm going wherever I'm going. And he's, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, what's up, Manny? You cool? What's going on? Can you believe? Whoa, what happened? I got a letter that they counted the 51st or 53rd slat is loose. What? Yeah, I have to go figure out which slat it is because they went through and like they literally went through each and every one. Yeah, da, da, da. I was like, that's that's way too much time on somebody's hands. It is one thing to do what is possible to keep things at a certain level. It's a whole other ball of wax. Oh, I'm going to count each individual slat. Are you kidding me? You kidding me? So, you know, there was that. And so, finishing up with 2 other stories in reference to Illinois. There were individuals who just didn't believe when I went back to Illinois after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 that they thought I was faking my head injury. And it's like, no, this is what happened. No, the Army doesn't do stuff like that. The Army does what the Army does. It is not the entire Army. It was certain individuals, and in regards to certain aspects, so in reference to my head injury, no, that was the drill sergeant. That's what happened. No, that doesn't happen in the Army. No, you know what? You're correct. It doesn't just happen in the Army. That's something that needs to be squared away and fixed and all that sort of, no, you're just faking your memory problems. No, I can't fake that. Yes, you know who I am. No, I don't. You're faking. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And then the ironies in the state of Texas. And so then in reference to the last name aspect, inside that particular page, and then going on to that one and that one. So, I guess, yeah. So, in reference to the aspects of the last name, I had gone to a dinner at the owner of the lab in San Antonio that my now dead ex-husband worked at. And this was just before the first separation. And it was for a Christmas party. And I was speaking with a bunch of the different individuals there and explaining gardening stuff in San Antonio compared to China and so on and so forth, getting certain plants to be able to grow, how to do that sort of stuff, how to amend the soil and all these things. And at one point in time, one of the individuals who was not from the lab but had been on the same floor or knew Dr. Sun, however, he had said, well, what's after your last name? Excuse me? Well, how would you know any of that? What is your college? Experience. Doing it. Researching it. Educating myself. Well, what do you have after your last name? My now dead ex-husband said, oh, she doesn't have anything after her last name. You don't, but she kind of knows a little bit. Kind of. About gardening. Can't even give me credit there. Can't even give me credit, like, in regards to that. And so the guy in the lab, he was just like, you know, well, what is it that, you know, you have after your last name? And at that time, nothing. So I don't have anything after my last name. But that doesn't mean anything. Because I do have... No. It doesn't mean anything that you don't have anything after your last name. That's exactly it. It means nothing. Because you have nothing after your last name. I'm just going to let you know that it's only more recent that colleges have been considered of importance, and degrees that go after people's last names being considered of importance. That is a newer thing in regards to this era compared to time. So if you are only going to judge me because I do not have letters after my last name, that is your choice. However, I'll let you know that that is only in the past couple of centuries that has become of importance. And it's only a piece of paper in comparison to the intent. And while there are importances behind those pieces of paper, that does not define the entire individual. So, just because I do not have a botany degree, and I do not have this degree, and go on down the list, does not mean that I don't know what I'm talking about or doing. And so he had continued on. I went back to the house. I got a whole paper bag full of different gardening magazines that I was looking at, and I wrote down a bunch of the books, names that I had already read through completely. The Western Sunset gardening book, Bible thing. It's like 700 pages, read every single one of all the different ones that I had purchased and stuff like that. And here you go. There's my education right there by myself. I don't have any letters after my last name though. And the guy was just Dr. Sun's wife and a bunch of the other, both male and female. They're like, oh wow. I'm like, yeah, like this company is with this company, but you can still, you know, get good deals and this, that, and the other. We start talking and the guy was, whatever. Well then, you know, it came to actual dinner time and everybody's at the table. The females are all sitting in the kitchen. And there's one particular chair that was open at the main table. I had only known some of the guys that were in the lab. And that includes my now dead ex-husband. So I sit down and that same guy, why are you sitting here? The female's in the kitchen. It's like, yeah, I know my biological father is first generation Chinese. I wasn't raised that way. My great-grandfather did not raise me in that way. He did not have, he is the only family member in my entire family, both sides, that never had me sitting at the children's table or the spouse's table or any other table with the exception of at the adult table. That was the only place. When I went out with my great-grandfather, I sat right there. And everybody at the table that had Chinese background, they were like, well, who was my great-grandfather or my buck gong? And every one of them went, oh, okay. So you got a buck gong. Yeah, my buck gong and my buck poo. They did not raise me where I sat anywhere except for at the main table. I'm not being disrespectful. I know that I don't have stuff after my last name. That's the way I was raised. Dr. Sun went, there's no problem here. It's cool. And so that particular guy started asking other questions. He got cut off a whole bunch of times. And then at some point, he started asking my now dead ex-husband questions about the military. And I look at him and I'm like, why are you discussing that? And he goes, oh, it's no big deal. He's talking about military positions. He's talking about, you know, all these different things that it's like, why are you discussing that? What is wrong with you? I dealt with an under the table issue in my thigh, and that is what it is. And so it was one of those, you need to stop. I don't care. I don't care. That is not like, yeah, okay, if you're talking with other military guys, that's one thing. You don't need to be talking about that. Oh, just stop it. Just stop. No. Why are you telling these guys where our military trains? Like, he was going over different locations, what was trained at those locations for infantry and in specific ranger stuff and the ranger training. And what is wrong with you? Shut your mouth. Oh, you don't know anything. Is one thing to discuss certain aspects within reason. It is another thing to go into formation tactics, to go into training tactics, to go into all these different things that could be. I dealt with a conversation when getting back to the house. That is what it is. However, I stopped that where I could, because it was like, no. No. That sort of stuff is, and even though, and I'm going to essentially end in this regard and go on to the next ones. Reference to my scuba diving, that is within reason. That is within certain aspects. As far as the underwater travel system, as far as the other aspects of how to get certain things out of the ocean that are far deeper than any location that has been. I mean, you know, a couple of miles down, that's cool. However, the places where, you know, like where the Vandenberg is, that's sort of like depth level. I haven't discussed that on how to do that. I haven't discussed the stuff to do in regards to various ways. And, you know, until I'm under a contract, that's just not going to happen. Because, you know, I'm keeping that safe. It's my ocean anyway. It is. I peed on the bottom of the ocean in 3 different locations. Born in the year of the dog. What do dogs do? When they're marking their territory, they pee at the bottom. So I went and I peed on the bottom of the ocean. I peed in regards to when I was at the bottom of the ocean in Cozumel. Each time that I went scuba diving there and landed at the bottom of the ocean, anybody who ever says that they have never peed in their wetsuit is a liar. I'm pointing that out. I don't care what gender you are. Don't you say you've never peed in your wetsuit unless you were in the water for like 3 seconds and then got out of the water. I don't think so. Peed at the bottom of the ocean at each of those dives. Touched the bottom. That was part of it. And then same thing when I was in the Boca Raton area one. Peed there. I so did. I don't care. It's rude, crude, socially unacceptable. I peed. It's mine. Plus, I got the first ocean tattoo realistically, so that just reiterates it in a different way. And then, when I was at the bottom of the ocean, when I went to the Vandenberg, I peed down there too. I did it. My ocean. Can make that joke. Still peed there. I did. The equivalent of Susan was here. Did it. Can't undo it. And then since there's the current that goes throughout the ocean, it is my ocean. And on top of that, and yes, I did. I got my tattoo. It's my ocean. It's nobody's ocean but my ocean. Those are pictures I took. My ocean. And don't think that I'm going to be accepting of any golden shower sort of thing and then that makes me yours, because absolutely not. That doesn't work that way. No. No. See, that attempt would have had to be done initially, like right after. It's been years. It's still my ocean. My ocean. And my ocean, because my ocean. Because my ocean. Just saying. I can make that joke if I want to. That being said, you guys have a good one. Like, share, comment, subscribe to my official YouTube channel. You guys have a good one. And still my ocean.